Welcome to the Netivot Shalom Shir. We're going to talk tonight about one of the things in this week's Torah reading, this week's Parsha Mattos, which is going to discuss the importance, this Torah reading is going to discuss the importance of speech. And it's basically going to talk about the fact that just like in the Beis HaMikdash, there were different things that were used in the Beis HaMikdash, the Holy Temple, to carry out the service of God, or the korbanos. And those things were called kelim or kli for in singular. For example, if somebody was going to bring a flour offering, it was put into a pan. The pan was called a kli. A kli, even though it was a regular pan made out of whatever it's made out of, it became holy. The kli became holy. And we're going to talk about how our mouth is a kli to serve Hashem. And I think this message, second. This is an important message for all of us in terms of how we live our lives and how we can improve our lives. So without further ado, let's look at what the Netivot Shalom says. I have it on the screen, but before I do that, let me just read the sentence, right? The very pasuk from the Torah. The very beginning of this week's parsha, it says, Ish ki yidor nedor LaHashem. If a person vows a vow to God, Ohishava Shavua, or swears an oath, Lesor Isor, to make something prohibited for him. For example, a person wants to donate something to the Beis HaMikdash, and he has beautiful pots and pans that he wants to give to the Beis HaMikdash. So he says, I'm going to make these pots and pans holy. Right away, when he says that, he changes the inanimate form of those pots and pans into something holy. And then the sentence continues, Lo yachel devoro, you shall not break your word. B'chol hayotze mipi v'yaseh, everything that comes out of your mouth, you should do. That's the pasuk in the Torah. Now, just one clarification: we have the mouth has the ability to make something hektish, to make something holy. You have the ability to prohibit your use of something. You can take, that's what's called a neder, a vow, saying something like, I'm not going to have any benefit from this tea kettle. At that point, you're not allowed to use the tea kettle. But if you say, and you can also reverse it, you can say that I'm going to make sure I have benefit on something. Okay, that you're permitted to. You can't do that on something that is already prohibited or permit something that is prohibited. Let's see what the Netivot Shalom says. Ish ki yidor neder LaHashem repeats what I just read. A person vows a vow to God. Oh, hishava shavua, or swears an oath. Asr al nafsho, to make something prohibited for himself. Lo yachel devoro, his words should not become profane. B'chol hayotze mipi v'yaseh, everything that comes out of his mouth, he should do. Rashi, interpreting that sentence, says, Lo yachel devoro, what that means, not to profane your words, is lo yachalel devoro. Don't make your speech profane. Lo yaseh devar of cholin. Don't make the words that come out of your mouth as not meaning anything and being profane. And we're going to see later on in this Netivot Shalom an example that is brought from the Gemara Shabbos that talks about how careful our Chazal were, our Hamim were, with the language they used. And whenever they could use language that sounded better, they would do that rather than use a word that had a negative connotation. Then he goes on to say, Umakshin Bazeh, they ask on this, Alamar Balashon Yachal Devar, on this language you shouldn't profane your words. Shoyat Sorech Lomer, I should have said, Lo Yavor Al Devoro, you shouldn't commit a sin with your words. Why does it say these words that you shouldn't make your words holy? Holiness also weekday. The word whole is referred to a weekday as well, because weekdays are not holy. Shabbos is holy. The weekdays are not holy. You can make them holy. You can bring holiness into them, but in and of themselves, they're not holy. We have to understand our service of God. It should have been enough to say, don't profane your words. Don't say anything bad. That in itself tells you that you got to do what you're saying. So then why does the Torah have to add the further words? Everything that comes out of your mouth you shall do. It sounds like extra words, and we know that the Torah doesn't use extra words. If we see something that seems like it's extra, you've got to look for an interpretation on it. That's an inyan neder. We have to understand what this whole concept of a vow is. It says, Eich nishtana mahus hadavar ayidei dibur ba'alma. How do you change the essence of something just by speaking? I mean, here you have this tea kettle that you're able to use. And now you say, with your words, I'm giving this tea kettle to the Beis Hamikdash. You can no longer use it. It's hektish. It's sanctified. If you use it, you're trespassing, stealing something that belongs to hektish. How's that possible? How do you change the essence of that with your words? If you say on something that is doesn't have holiness with it, you're saying this is going to be a sacrifice, an offering to God, or Isser, or it's going to be prohibited. How does that change the reality of what you're referring to? Isn't the tea kettle still a tea kettle? It falls on that object by your language, a different kind of quality of prohibition, or the reality of making something hektish, holy. We have to understand what Rabbi Yonah says in Pirkei Avos. He says, Ki Yehudi hamakadish espiv. A person, a Jew, who makes his mouth holy, nasa piv kekli shoris. If you make your mouth holy, you are making your mouth like a kli shoris, a serving vessel in the Beis Hamikdash. You're making your mouth into a holy vessel. And just like a holy vessel, serving vessel, makes holy I mentioned the korban mincha before, the meal offering. It makes the pan that the meal offering is in, the vessel, which is a holy vessel, makes what's in it holy. But she also mishtanet lios kedusha, and the whole reality of it changes to be holy. Kamokein aidei dibur, Similarly, by the speech, Yehudi Mosi Mipiv, that a Jew has words come out of his mouth, Shehu Kakli Shores, it's like a serving vessel in the base of Mikdash. Notzro Metzios Chadash Shel Kedusha Neder. It changes the reality of something to make it something holy, something new by virtue of this vow. He now asks, why is it that the mouth was chosen among all the organs of the body to serve as a serving vessel to God? Yesh Lomar, Hapi Mamar Kwasim, it says in the Yeshayahu, he says, Am Zu Yitzarti Li, I created this people Israel, Tehilasi Yisaperu. They shall tell my glories. Kol HaMatorah B'Brias Yisrael. All the reason, the basis of creating the children of Israel, Ilaman Tehilasi Yisaperu, so that you will say my praises. Sheyomer Lefanav Yisborach Tehilos V'Sishpachos. And we will say before God praise and words of glory. V'kivan Shazu Tachlis Habriya. Since this is the purpose of creation, Alkein Apehu Kli Shores. Therefore, the mouth is the Kli Shores, is the vessel to do this. Shebiyuchad Letzorech Gavoa. It's unique to do higher things. Kavamar Moran Admor Beis Avram Zechuskaleni, he says, Al Pasuk, Bayar Balak ben Tzipor as Kol Asher Asa Yisrael Amoli. God saw, Balak, the son of Tzipor, saw that all that the children of Israel had done to the Amorites. Perus Shabalak Ra, Sha'it Kol Asher Asa, means that Balak saw all that was done, meaning Kol Masha Asa Kadosh Baruch Hu, that everything that God did, Hu Bishvil Yisrael Amori, because of the Israel he did to the Amorites. Shehudi Yomer Lefonav Yisborach Devorei Kodesh, because a Jew says before God words of holiness. And that's the purpose. You shall praise me. Shall say my praises. Umatzina we find Ikra Avodas Hashem is Kayemes Ayadei Dibur. We find that the main aspect of serving God comes through speech. What are those aspects? Limud HaTorah, studying Torah. Shehudi V'chayev Lasuk B'Tamid. The Jew has to study Torah all the time, day and night. Kavosh Nemar, as it says, V'yigisu bo yama v'layla. I will toil over it, work with it day and night. Similarly, V'chein Tefillah, prayer. Hu'ayidei dibur is through speech. V'zochras Yom HaShabbos l'kadosho. You should remember the Sabbath day to make it holy. Zichro, how do you remember it? V'divreihem, with words. Ikra mitzvah b'deoraisa hi ayidei dibur. The main purpose of a commandment from the Torah is that it's fulfilled through speech. And similarly, v'chein zachras asher asalacha Amalek. Remember all that Amalek did to you. A mitzvahu l'peh. You have to not only think it, but you have to say it. The essence of serving God is through the mouth. And for this reason, hapehu kli shores. The mouth is a serving vessel to God. Inyan kli shores hu shemiyuad lasospo avodos lashem. The whole aspect of a kli shores, a holy vessel, is to serve. Its purpose is to serve God with it. Ulakach hapesh al yado is kayemes ikra avodos Hashem. Therefore, the mouth through which the main part of service to God is accomplished. Ariel kli shores. This is a serving vessel, hamyuad lavodaso yisporach, that is designed to serve God. Which is not the case with other bodily parts. Other parts are not unique in the service of Hashem. Goes on to say, it was then Yuvin, this we can understand, what it says in the Gemara Nedorim, Apostle lo yachal devaro, where the Torah tells us not to profane your words. Shafilu nedorim hamutorim, even vows that would be permitted. Kagon, for example, sheneder al davar she'ein bo mamish. You're making a vow on something that doesn't exist, and as you can't possibly violate the vow. You're making it on something that doesn't exist. It's not a real vow. It's in the name of, in the words of a vow. Or you make a neder, you make a vow that I'm going to do something prohibited. None of those vows take effect. There's nothing on which it can take effect. I know the fee should even though these things cannot take effect. Talmud Lomer lo yachal devorav. Torah tells us you shouldn't profane your words. Shelo yaseh devorav cholim. Don't make your words profane. Shelechura tzorach bir. We have to understand. Madu asher lo lomer dibur kazeh. Why does the Torah prohibit saying something like this on the cases I just mentioned? Miachar she'enu tofas klal. After it doesn't have any effect, so why would they prohibit it? You're just words alone. The Arizal said in the Likutei Torah, he says, our pasuk that we're talking about, don't profane your words, everything that comes out of your mouth you should do. Should be called dibur sheyehudi motzi mipiv. It's an interesting concept. He says, every word that comes out of a Jew's mouth, nivra malach, creates an angel. So, im medaber devarim tovim, if you're speaking good things, nia mizeh sanegor, you will have created a defending angel to defend you before the higher tribunal. The midas devarim asorim, if you medaber devarim asorim, nia kategor, if you say things that are prohibited, then you've created not a defending angel, but a prosecuting angel to bring your faults before the heavenly tribunal. And because of that, it says, Lo yachal devoro, don't profane your words. She'ein le'adam lasas devorav chulin, mishum shebechol hayotze mipiv yaseh malach. Person should not make his words mundane, profane, because out of every word that he utters, an angel is created. We have to understand, why is this aspect of speech so stringent? Shem Yehudi Motzi Mipiv Mecholal Totzat Gedola Kol Kach. Shema Yehudi Motzi Mipiv, that what comes out of a Jew's mouth, Mecholal Totzat Gedola Kol Kach, can have such a far-reaching effect. Even though this is only words. Chazal said in Gebur Yoma, there's an interesting thing, and I alluded to this at the beginning. Rav Omar, call Hasach Sichas Chulin, whoever speaks wasted words over Ba'aseh, violates a positive commandment, Shenemar, and it says, we read it every day in the Shema, V'dibarta bam, you shall speak of them. Bam, of them, refers to Torah. V'lo b'dvorim b'teilim, not just idle gossip. Reb Acha Bar Yaakov Omar, over below Saseh, he says, Reb Acha Bar Yaakov says that speaking words that are not holy, are just wasted words, you are violating a negative commandment. Shneimar said that, okay. L'chura harei eino medaber devorim asurim. Even if you're not speaking forbidden things, kimrat devorim b'teilim, she'en b'hem tzorach, but you're saying things that are not necessary to say. V'lama over avodah zorah. I'm sorry. V'lama over alzeh. And why are you by saying things that aren't necessary, why are you violating this? Okay, Laura, we're going to explain this. We can explain all of this way. So, the most unique vessel to serve God of a Jew is the mouth. Is Torah tefillah umitzvos. Through it, most of the aspects of Torah and prayer and the commandments, fulfillment of commandments, are accomplished. And you shall meditate on them day and night. You shall work on them day and night. Therefore, lo rak devorim asurim. Therefore, it is not prohibited only to do things to say things that are prohibited, but even things that are just profane, adas klishores, like a serving vessel, the divrei chol, that you can't use for mundane things. I feel even if there's no prohibition. And you have to use them only for their holy purpose. From this reason, all that comes out of your mouth you must do. Should call dibur shehudi medaber dia mizeh malach, because every word that a Jew utters creates an angel. Isa Zohar Kodesh, and this Holy Zohar says as follows. Dvoria Torah tefillah, from speaking words of Torah and prayer. Shehudi Omer Lefei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, words of Torah and prayer that a Jew utters before God. Not to Kadosh Baruch Hu ilin milin. God takes these words of Torah and prayer that you are uttering, uvane bahon almin, and builds with these words, builds worlds, builds different worlds. Think about that. Your words are used to build new worlds by God. It says, Shemafarish Pasuk, and Yeshayahu again, it says, Hashemayim Hachadashim V'aretz Hachadasha. The heavens are new, the earth is new. I was talking about in the days of Mashiach, everything will be renewed. Ashrani Osa Omdi B'Lefonai, that I make will stand before me. Shekoya Mashihudi Mechadish Chidushi Yoraisa. Excuse me, this is speaking of the Jew doing new things, creating new things according to the Torah. Asher Asisi Lo Kasiv Khan, it's not written that I will make. El Asher Ani Oseh, that I will do. The Avid Tadir Hinun Chidushin, all of this is done from the aspect of newness. Varazin the Oraisa, the secret of heaven. Shemaim Chadashim Ve'eretz Chadasha. The newness is created when Mashiach comes. A new heaven, a new earth. Mainu should be called Hadiborim, meaning from all the words. Excuse me, all of the words, the word Kodesh, holy words. Bachidushi, the Araisa, and the new interpretations of Torah, Shehudi Medaber, that a Jew speaks. Nivroim Olamos Chadashim. Your speech is so powerful that you are creating new worlds. Shemayim Chadashim, new heavens, Ve'eretz Chadashim, new earth. Understand what this comer is as follows. Shapiv Shel Yehudi, the mouth of a Jew, who bechinas Beis Hamikdash, is like the holy temple, like the Beis Hamikdash. Uchali Shores, and is a serving vessel to God. Alkein Kashi Yehude Mechadesh Chidushi Doraisa. When a Jew says different words of Torah, new words of Torah, the Shem Hashem, for God's name, Ivra Mizeh Bria Chadasher. God creates a new creation. Because of this, Yeshna, we have to understand Madua Kasiv Torah Lashon Yachal Devar Davka. Why does the Torah speak in words that specifically you shouldn't profane your words? Shator Malamedes Pazu. Torah is teaching us Shumavad Etzem Din Neder Shalom Chalod Chavtzer. Aside from the fact of the laws of a vow, where your vow may not take effect on something, but it's something you can't make a vow about. Yesh Od Azhor, there's another warning, Yachal Devorov, not to profane your words. Shelo Yasa Devorov Chulin, don't make your words profane. Don't make your words mundane. Realize the importance of your words. Kivan Shapiv Shal Yehudi Hu Kli Shores. The mouth of a Jew is a serving vessel to God. Its whole purpose is to serve God. Therefore, it's prohibited to profane your words with mundane speech. A lot of people speak just to hear themselves talk without any substance in it. Oh, I think, what could be wrong? We're just talking. A good example comes to mind, a filibuster in the Senate, where the senators will get up for 12 hours and just rattle on about nothing that has anything to do with anything in the world. Right? That's a prime example of Devorim B'Teilim. of words that are meaningless. Chalosh Chazal, as the sages say, al posi magi la'adam ma shicho. You should tell a person what his speech is. Afilu sicha yetera magidin lo la'adam b'yom hadin. Extra words that you use are counted against you on the judgment day. Sheperush means Yiserahu she'enu muchrach adavar she'yabu. But that means you're saying extra words that are not necessary for it. And I'm reminded of a story. Obviously, you can see from this that every word that you utter is significant. There's a story told about brain freeze. Happens. About the Chofetz Chaim. Story is told about the Chofetz Chaim. I don't know if any of you remember what a telegram is. Long before we had telephones or internet or any even dream of that, the way you communicate with somebody long distance was you went into an office called the Western Union office, and you sent a telegram, which is a very abbreviated message. And the Chofetz Chaim is standing at the counter composing a telegram. In the meantime, there's a person waiting behind him and gets impatient. What's taking so long? He says, can't you hurry up? You know, with the telegram, you got to select the words carefully because you only have a certain number of words. He turns back to the guy, Chofetz Chaim says, don't you know that every word costs? Every word costs. And not only with the telegram, but with our relationship to God. Every word that comes out of our mouth costs. So therefore, we have to be careful to spend our money wisely. This aspect of not profaning your speech has many different levels, one higher than the other. Just that you should not speak, should not waste your words. Above this, that you should say things that are permissible. We have a story in Gemara Psachim. Two students were sitting before Hillel. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and one was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and so on. Chad Amar, one said, "Ifnei ma botrim b'tahara." Why, when we harvest grapes, it has to be done in a state of purity. Ein moskin b'tahara. But when we harvest olives, it doesn't have to be done in a state of purity. Chad Amar, the other one said, saying the same thing, but the words are changed a little bit. Why do we harvest grapes in a state of purity? I'm sorry, I skipped the line. But when we harvest olives, we can do it in an impure state. So you see the difference in the two languages. The first one said, why don't we do it in a not pure state? And the other said, in a defiled state, a tumah state. So Hillel said, Muftach ani b'zeh, I am certain of this, that this person who used the language a pure language and didn't use the word tuma, I'm certain that this person, Sheyeh Mora Harav Yisrael, will be a great teacher of the law for the Jewish people. And that in fact happened. Ubavadai, certainly She'ein Isser B'Amirot Moski Batuma. There's no prohibition of saying you're allowed to harvest olives in a state of impurity. Achkivan Shara, Shu Nizar, but since Hillel saw that he was so careful in his language, Kol Kach B'Diboro, Shu Naki Utor, they wanted to be clean and pure in his language. Ari says, Simon, this is a sign She'oches bin Madregos Kavot, that he is holding on to a higher level. But Sofu Lios Mora Hora Yisrael, his end will be, he'll be a great teacher in Bnei Yisrael, which of course Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was. Od Matzino, we find the Malavizu over and above this. Kavod Omer V'Gemara, so we say in Gemara Gittin. Gemara Gittin is discussing the laws of how you make a document referencing a divorce decree, a get. And the get has to be signed by witnesses. And typically, the way it is signed, it says, Plony, Van Plony, so-and-so, the son of so-and-so, aid is a witness. Plony, Van Plony, aid. The other one, next one says, that's how it's typically signed. So here in Gittin, they're discussing a case. It says, Be'inin Chatimat Eidin, you need the signature of the witnesses, Shabishtar, on the document of divorce. Each Ploni ben Ploni aid. Normally it says, I am so-and-so Ploni Shimon ben Ruven. Witness, I'm a witness. That's the normal language. Ploni ben Ploni, so-and-so ben so-and-so, a witness. These are Sham, and it turned out, even low cost of aid kashir. Even low cost of aid kashir. It turns out that if he doesn't write the word aid, witness, he just signs it Ploni ben Ploni, Ruven ben Shimon. Doesn't say what he is, doesn't say the word aid, 2 letters, witness. It's obviously that if he's signing at the bottom of the document, he's a witness, but he doesn't put the word aid in there. Makach, Hayanoke Hadea Hadas Yerushalayim Osim. This is how the pure people in Yerushalayim would do. Perush Rashi, no Hagin Shalashonan Katsara. They had a custom that they would make the language as brief as possible. Lohia Chosmin aid. And they would not write the word aid, 2 letters. They're concerned about 2 more letters. Ploni ben Ploni, just say so-and-so ben so-and-so. They want to save 2 letters. That's how important speech is. Bainu Shinoki Hadas Shomer al Devaro. It shows that these pure people regard to their speech, biyoter, so much, ad shelo hayu motzio mipihem afila teva achas futeres, that it wouldn't come out of their mouths even 1 letter that wasn't needed. She'embo tzorich, they had no need. V'chol mila shelahem haisu b'cheshbo. Every word that they spoke, they took an accounting of. For my example with Chafetz Chaim, every word counted. Every word costs. Every word costs. Therefore, they were called purity of knowledge. Because speech comes from your intellect, from your knowledge. Since they were pure in their intellect, Nishmur we call Milo Muteris. They were careful not to use any extra language. And this, Shabbos Kodesh, is what we say about Shabbos. Also, I'm sorry, the Chibarto Masos Derechecha, Mimtzo Chevetz Davidover. It says in Yeshayahu, you shall honor the doings of your ways on Shabbos to not do things for your own use, and you shall speak something. So what does that mean? Shidor Shuva Chazal, in the Gemara Shabbos, the sages interpret this as meaning, Shelo Yehi Devorcha Shal Shabbos Ki Devorcha Shal Chol. That your speech on Shabbos should not be like your speech during the week. It's like Shabbos brings with it a spirit of holiness. It surrounds everything with holiness. Your speech has to be different. So the Kubrin Rebbe asked the question on this. On this thing that your speech of Shabbos shouldn't be like the speech of the week. And he said, Im Devorim B'Teilim Harigam Bimos Achol Hemasurim, if words, meaningless words, extra words are prohibited during the week, Mishum B'Dibar Tabam, because it says you should speak of them, meaning only Torah and mitzvos. Devorim B'Teilim, not mundane words. El Shekoyal Divrei Torah Tefillah goes on Torah and Tefillah and prayer. Torah v'Tefillah b'Shabbos Kodesh, the Torah and prayer on Shabbos, lo yeb kivimos hachol, should not be like the weekday. Ela b'madrega yoter gavo, but should be on a higher level. Al pidas yesh lomer shenichlal b'zeh shafil b'dvorim shetzorich ledaber bohem b'Shabbos. What it means to say is even those things that you have to talk about on Shabbos, you should say it as briefly as possible. As he said, one moment of Shabbos is worth so many hours. One moment of Shabbos is worth so many hours of a weekday. Okay, but Shabbos Kodesh, on Shabbos Tzorich Letzamtzem Hadibur Kahal Efshar. So you have to be careful to condense your words as much as possible. Zeu Perush. This is what it means. Shelo Yeh Diborcha Shel Shabbos Ki Diborcha Shel Chol. That your speech on Shabbos should not be like the speech of the week. Shabbos Kodesh Tzorich Yehudi Liot B'Pchinas Naki Hadas. Person on Shabbos, their speech has to be the aspect of purity of knowledge. Should be Yerushalayim Shekitzru. The Jews in Jerusalem would condense their words to whatever way possible. Now, there's a couple things from that. First of all, your words on Shabbos should be like the words of the weekday. A simple meaning of that is that don't talk on Shabbos about things that you can't do on Shabbos. Don't talk about business on Shabbos. Don't talk about the stock market on Shabbos. Your words have to be holy, at a holier level. The whole concept of speech. We've talked before about Lashon Hora, about speaking about other people. If every word counts, do you want your words to be used to say bad things about somebody else, to spread gossip, rumors about somebody? No. So what this Netivot Shalom is teaching us, what the Torah is teaching us, is how careful we have to be in what we say. Careful about other people's feelings, careful about the result, the effect of your words. Your words are not said in a vacuum. Your words are said with somebody hearing them. So what's the effect on them? And don't waste words. And when you commit to do something, still, you shall do what you say. The word of a Jew is very important. If you commit to do something, then do it. That's the other part of this. Anyway, that's the end of this year. I'm going to turn the recording off, and then I'll take any comments.